Welcome back to mini video series on fractions. So in this video, I would like to talk to you a little bit about simplifying fractions, or we call the reducing fractions. So the concept of simplifying fraction can be a little bit tricky to explain. So let me go to another page using pizza, for example. I love pizza. So if I have a large pizza, and let's pretend I'm cut them into 8 slices. Remember, this is only one pizza, and I'm cutting to 8 equal slices, for example. And I decide to eat two of them. Okay, I'm gonna purposely highlight this real quick. So if I decided to eat 2 slices out of the 8, that is also equivalent if I would cut this large pizza only equal to 4 equal parts. So that 2 slices at 8 is also equivalent of 1 slice out of the 4. Okay, if I will have cut it as 4 slices. Okay, so that's the idea of simplifying fraction. It's basically finding its equivalent fraction. So what we can do is start up with 1 out of the 4 and then cut my pizza into smaller slices. So that's equivalent of eating 2 out of 8. I can keep on cutting this too. I can even cut them into 16 slices. Okay, so if I will cut them into 16 slices, that means I will have eight of them. 8 of those 16. So 8 of those little 16 slices is the equivalent of 2 out of the 8, or just 1 out of the 4. So when it comes to reducing or simplifying fractions, okay, we're actually trying to reduce our number down to its equivalent, the simplest form. All right, so a fraction is reduced or simplified to the lowest term if the numerator and the denominator have no common factors other than 1, just like my 1 over 4. There's no other common factor other than 1. When reducing a fraction to the lowest term, use the same divisor or use the same number that can go into the numerator and the denominator at the same time. Okay, so if I have a 2 over 8 and I want to reduce it down to 1 over 4, that means I need to find a divisor or a number that can go into my 2 and the 8. And that number got to be the same for the numerator and the denominator. So most of people know to reduce 2 over 8, I can actually reduce them by 2 or divide them by 2. Different teachers say it differently. I say reduce by 2. So then that will result into 1 over 4. So there are two basic ways we can reduce fractions. Two basic techniques we can go about using. Either we can use a multiplication table. If you know the multiplication table very well, you probably know what number to use to reduce your numerator and denominator with. Or you can use the concept of prime numbers, disabilities, or finding all the factor of a number. Maybe that technique can also help you dealing with numbers that you don't recognize. So for example, all right, so this is where it gets tricky. Different student and different teacher use different techniques when it comes to reducing fraction. So 30 out of 50, if you know your divisibility pretty good or know your multiplication table pretty good, you know 30 and 50 can be both reduced by 10. Okay, so if I reduce them both by 10, then my final answer would just be 3 over 5. All right. Now, some students don't like to reduce by 10. Maybe they want to reduce them by 2 or by 5. Okay, so that will be using prime factorization idea. So normally I don't write divided by the number. I just kind of do it by saying it. So if I reduce by 2, then 30 divided by 2 will give me 15. 25 divided by 2, excuse me, 50 divided by 2 will give me 25. You know what? I will write it. So remember now, the number I used to reduce my fraction with got to be the same number for the top and the bottom. So now 15 and 25, I can reduce them by 5. Or I can divide them by 5, top and bottom. So that will give me 3 over 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So if I can reduce by 2 and then by 5, that's also equivalent of dividing by 10, or reduce 30 over 50 by 10. So different technique to do this. Now, while this problem is pretty easy, I'm going to go ahead and show you this too. Sometimes you might see this. Find prime numbers that makes up 30. If I use 2, prime number 2 can go into 30 15 times. And using prime number 3 can go into 15 5 times. 5 is a prime number itself, only 5 go into 5 one time. So what that means is 2 times 3 times 5 are the prime numbers that makes up 30. Another technique is actually breaking the 30 or breaking my given number down into prime numbers and then reducing them from the prime number perspective. So for 50, that would be 2 times 5 times 5. So what we can do is reduce the 2 and the bottom 2 by 2. I can reduce the top 5, bottom 5 by 5. So the only thing I'm left with is 3 over 5. So this is basically another ways of writing it out. All right, let's try another example. 21 over 49. So if you know your multiplication table pretty well, you know 21 and 49 can be both reduced by 7. All right, so that will give me 3 over 7 as a final answer. If you want to use a prime number approach, in other words, you want to write them all out as a prime numbers and then reduce that way, you can. All right. 36 over 54. If you don't recognize 36 and 54, that's okay. We can use our divisibility rule to help us. I know 36 and 54 ends in 6 and 4, so I know I can reduce them by 2, start out with. If I reduce them by 2, start out with, half of 36 is 18, and 2 will go into 54 about 27 times. All right, I know 18 and 27 can be reduced by 3. Remember now, you cannot reduce a 18 by one number, reduce a 27 by a different number. Both of these numbers got to be exactly the same. So I know I can reduce them by 3 because 1 plus 8 is 9. 3 can go to 9. 3 can go to 18. Okay, so it's a 27. So if I reduce them by 3 next, then I get 6 over 9. All right, I know 6 and 9 can be, again, reduced by 3. All right, so that means my final answer would just be 2 over 3. Okay, now for students that know multiplication table pretty well, they probably see that 36 and 54 can be reduced by 9 right off the bat. See the 9 divided by 3 means that you can reduce by 9. So if I will reduce both of these by 9, start out with, right away, I would know this is 4 over 6. And 4 over 6 reduce again by 2. That will give me my 2/3. So after all, 36 over 54 can actually be reduced by 18, right? Divided by 3, divided by 3 means divided by 9. Divided by 2 again means divided by 18 if you multiply them together, okay? So everybody do this a little bit differently. Depends on how much multiplication table you remembered, but eventually you will always end up with the right answer. The tricky part is recognizing that the top number and the bottom number can be reduced. That's the trickiest part. All right, so that will conclude this video. Thank you for watching.